I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah, who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us?
Today on the Dallas Famous Podcast, our guest is Corey Howe. Corey is co-owner of one of the best dive bars in Dallas, Charlie's Star Lounge. I got to know him as the singer of the band Dead Flowers. Corey has been a staple in Deep Ellum for a while, helping fledgling businesses, managing the double wide and the nines, and he's an amazing cook to boot. I think he's an interesting guy, and I think you will dig getting to know him better. So here's my interview with Corey Howe on this week's Dallas Famous Podcast. Let's start before Dallas. Like, what's your history before coming here?
Yeah, I grew up in Garland, Texas, and as soon as I applied to one university and my best friend went to the Marine Corps, I made a deal with him. It was like, I'm going to apply to a school, and if I get in and I get a scholarship because my family didn't have any money, I'm going to do that. But if I don't, I'll go with you to the Marine Corps. And he was like, cool, deal. And then I applied to this one university, mostly based off their food program because it was really good. I think that was that, and there was a tree that was really pretty there in fall. I'd never seen fall before being from Dallas or Garland. And I applied, and I got mostly a full ride, and I was like, sorry, buddy, I'm going to Chicago. So
Nice.
went to University of Lake Forest, graduated, majored in philosophy, minored in theology, and then spent a little time in California, and ended up moving back to Dallas area, and never really looked back.
Why'd you come back to Dallas?
I mean, at the time, my parents were having some issues and just needed some help, and so needed me to be around, especially for my sisters and some financial stuff, you know. So came back, and it was kind of funny because I was in California. I played this festival, a lot of these punk guys out there. I think it was No Pants Fest. I think it was the festival. I might have that wrong. But I met this guy named Jeffrey Sines, who ended up being J. Charles and the Train Robbers, and now like a really well-known producer from Modern Electric. And we basically we met in the desert, and then we both moved back at the same time, which was kind of wild. And that kind of started this whole Deep Ellum hang. He knew a lot of people. I didn't know as many. And then, yeah, it was a lot of late nights and a lot of music.
Okay, and so you're back in Dallas. Like, that's one thing that struck me, because I'm not from Dallas, is how many people never left or left and came back, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a statistic in there that can be viewed negatively, and that I remember seeing in my studies, you know, of course. But I think at the same time, I was having this conversation with somebody at the bar the other night, and they were talking about they've moved away now 3 times and have always come back. It's never really been for money or like, you know, going for broke or whatever, but something about Dallas, just it's like this magnetic field that just like sucks you back in. And I mean, even moving away to Denton, I think for some people, even though it's 30 minutes away, kind of feels like an exodus of sorts. Yeah.
Right, it does.
It's wild.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped going there as much as because I'm like, oh, those late nights driving back are so brutal.
Dangerous.
You were in, I mean, I know you were in Dead Flowers. That's how I became acquainted with you. Were you in something before that, or is that your first, like, how did that come about? That was, I know Vinny and you met in Chicago, right?
Yeah, so I was in a band called Eulalia, and I didn't know how to play the guitar. I don't know what that band sounded like. I did learn a lot, and I became obsessed with Blind Melon through that band. And then me and Vinny and Chris Bach, who still lives in Chicago, we all met and we formed a band called Gold Rock. which played, I think, 2 or 3 shows. And one of them was at our college opening up for The Used and Rise Against, which was just really weird.
Wow, okay.
And then moving back and 15 years later, then I'm hanging out with the Rise Against guys, at 3 Links, which is just a very small world. But yeah, when I moved to Dallas, I was definitely playing acoustic and doing like some open mics. I got banned from opening bell for singing a Neil Young song, which was nice. I was singing Southern Man, and I mean, you've been in the studio with us. My voice goes from like low to loud pretty quick, and I didn't really have any control. So at that time, I didn't know how to sing really, and so to hit a note that was in a higher register, I just thought I had to scream it. So basically, I was in a coffee shop screaming Southern Man to 10 people. I think I was playing an electric guitar that I'm sure wasn't in tune, like just terrible green Corey. And I ended up getting banned from there, which was wild. But me and Jeff kind of buddied up, and he actually, we did an EP, like a country EP. He had a mobile studio at Oliver Peck's print shop up on Longview, and we cut it all there. And that was pre-Spotify, I think. So I don't think any of that ever made it onto Spotify. I'm pretty sure my mom's got the only hard copy there. And then through that, I ended up doing a couple of gigs with the Train Robbers and helping kind of co-write with Jeff a little bit there. And I think I learned more being in that band, off the microphone and just paying attention to Steve on drums and like figuring out how to play with a band versus always playing, just a solo acoustic for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I did a bunch of solo stuff, and I met Chelsea Callahan really early on in that. And I, at a show at the Loft, and she's the one that hit me to double wide and then set me up. And later on, I was on her little booking label. So it was just kind of really have Chelsea to thank for that. And then Jeff for kind of showing me the ways, of the pro band guys. Yeah.
It's cool.
Wild. I haven't thought about that in a while. It's crazy.
Huh. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, God, I do romanticize those days in Deep Ellum. I'm sure living here, there was a lot of just downtime, but it seems so cool. Like a lot of stuff was brewing that's now formed,
and it was, when I first moved here, there was Double Wide, 8 Airs, Profit Bar. Trees had just reopened, I believe, and they were doing like a local showcase on Thursdays, I believe. And I remember like one of the first shows I saw was Jonathan Tyler and Northern Lights, and I blew me away at the Granada. Buddies of mine took me there to see a different band. I saw JT and those guys, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like immediately, like, and I ended up being friends with him, and I was telling him I was in California. He's like, dude, move back here, build a band. Like, everything's changing here. Like, you may not realize it now, but if you put something together at this moment, in 5 years, like it's going to be a really cool situation in Dallas. And he was right, because, there was Auxiliary Voice in the Room Sounds, Dead Flowers, and Goodnight Ned, Van Sanchez, and I mean, all the bands that, that I love and that you do as well, all the Chevy Showcase guys. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy how quickly that happened, seemed overnight in retrospect.
Huh. God, yeah, I do miss you guys, Goodnight Ned. I mean, I've seen JT
The Power Bill.
Yeah, that really was fun. I mean, that for me, I lived in LA. I had never even been to Dallas. I had played with a friend in my 20s who went to SMU, so he romanticized Deep Ellum for me.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like in the back of my head, and he talked about how great it was. And then, because I'm a deadhead, like the Deep Ellum blues, so... But so I started working on that Chevy show, and yeah, I mean, I fell in love with Dallas. I wasn't even here, and I fell in love with it.
And yeah, I remember we were like riding to you, me and Vinny, I think, and then Vinny sent you that guitar, my favorite guitar.
I think I still have it.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. We got to play like one show with it or something.
Yeah, well, it's not okay. Well, okay, I don't want to interrupt you, but like when I got here, I was like, Vinny, the thing doesn't actually really work.
Oh, the whammy.
Yeah, I like no the input.
Oh, I can see that.
And then he just was like, yeah, well.
I can get that taken care of for you. That guitar deserves to live.
I got to dig it out. I know I got it somewhere.
That thing was so awesome. I was so mad at him. I was like, dude, like, and we were such a young band. We didn't have any. I think I started building guitar.
Kind of shocked that he sent that to me, but
I think we all were, and now we're all like, oh, that's so Vinny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
Like
I sent him a bunch of. I used to have my rock and roll pants. I sent him a.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was some. I feel like there was some was there some leather pants?
Yeah, that became jorts in a show. I saw a picture.
Absolutely see that.
He thought I was gonna be upset. I'm like, man, like,
It said it to you.
it was a good show that night, I guess.
Your problem now.
I missed it, but yeah.
It's so funny. I love that.
So yeah, so you're playing acoustic stuff, and Deep Ellum is kind of starting to go off a little, and then Dead Flowers. How does that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, back to the Vinny thing. So Vinny and his partner were basically traveling around the country doing marketing and he was on this like fruits and vegetable thing where he was on the news every day, which was wild. And it was a yogurt company, so we joked about him slinging yogurt. And then I just told them, I was like, hey, I'm feeling really good about Dallas. Like, I'm getting some pretty cool acoustic shows. I'm getting some momentum, and I want to put a band together. So you guys just do that, save money, and then just move to Dallas, and everything will just be fine. You know, like, who would believe that? And he did. And you know, I didn't go out looking for band members. You know, I hope I was never in a crowd like, you want to hear my songs, dude? You know, check out my demo. You know, it was more like just hanging out and meeting people. And I met Ed through Jeff Sines, because they were in a band together in LA, of course, because why not? And then, you know, I met Tony and Justin and Matt, and Tony ended up playing guitar. And I told him, I was like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but like, I got this guitar god traveling around the country. And I basically promised him a band, and he was like, man, I'll just come play with you guys for a while. It sounds fun. And then I met Evan in a very Evan-y way at the Goat, and he was kind of drunk, and it was just like, he just kind of said something like, I heard you're looking for a bass player or something like that, you know? And I knew at the time he was doing like Collab and The Cool, which are all really groovy bands. And I always had this idea of a rock and roll band, but like no straight rock bass. So he was like the perfect kind of bass player to, I think, really shaped the combination of that with the way that I accidentally play acoustic guitar. I think he really shaped the way that early Dead Flowers sounded. And yeah, I think we had 3 rehearsals. We cut a demo with David Ponder on guitar. Wild. Another chapter.
Yeah.
And then Tony came in, and then
last names, like, give me last names.
Tony Webb, Evan Johnson, Vince Tooley, obviously. Who did I miss?
I think you got them all.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh, and Ed.
Ed Cheney.
Yeah.
The amazing Ed. Yeah, and I think we did that demo at Ed's house with Josh White, and I think we did 3 rehearsals, and we cut a demo, and they're all looking at me like I'm insane. Like, my cables weren't long enough to reach my amp. They're like, what is this guy doing? You know, it's like, just trust me, it's gonna be cool. You know, and it worked. It worked out. It took us around the country.
Yeah,
a couple albums, 4 albums.
Yeah, I mean, like my impression, you guys, when we had at that point, I had already worked on 36 bands between here and Oklahoma, and a couple other places. I mean, I hadn't traveled yet, so I was doing all from LA. But your guys' interview, well, first of all, I think you guys were a little bit buzzed on that interview.
I'm pretty sure we were, yeah.
But you were the first one where I was like, this guy's like rock and roll. Like, he's not pretending. Like, a lot of these people like on the show are like, they're probably out there drinking and partying and doing the rock and roll thing, but like on the show, they're just like
very stiff.
Yeah. Well, except for there's one band, I won't mention that. We're pretty sure we're on speed, but
oh gosh,
they're not together anymore. So I guess
yeah, speed kills.
Yeah, kills bands.
Kills bands. Yeah.
But no, it was fun, and then I move out here, and I kind of cut my teeth working with you guys in a lot of ways. And then I don't know, my perspective is suddenly you're like managing the double wide.
Yeah, it seemed. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in food and beverage stuff. Like, my first job, I'm pretty sure, was illegal in a little Albanian-owned Italian restaurant called Vitoni's in Garland. Shout out. And cooks all went on strike one day, so I was waiting tables, and the owner was like, "You're gonna learn how to cook," and I was like, "Cool." So I was cooking, waiting tables, and eventually had other jobs in the industry. And then when I got the job at Double Wide, I was still at Victor Tango's, and before that Fireside, so doing more like upscale dining, cocktails. Me and a buddy had a cocktail published in Delta magazine. All the really wah wah wee wah stuff, and I was just so over it. And people would come in, ask me if I know this chef owner, and I'm like, I absolutely don't, because I can't afford to eat there. Like, I'm just like trying to raise enough money to get on the road, you know? And so Double Wide was like the first time I got to bartend at a bar that I would want to hang out with at, you know?
Nice.
And that was the deal when they hired me. I was like, look, you know, barring like I do something terrible, like steal or, you know, murder somebody, like if this doesn't work out, I still get to hang out here because this is my favorite bar, and still is to this day, like one of my favorite bars in Dallas.
Yeah, it's
you know?
a great one.
So yeah, and then I was managing there, and then I started there to not manage. That was a deal, and then I was managing, and then I was booking bands, and then me and Kim had an idea to kind of. I noticed that photographers in the venue were shooting everything in black and white, and I was like, why is that? You know, and I realized there's no lighting, and I was like, okay. So we started doing little adjustments in the venue, and the next thing you know, like Kim and I were in there, and Vinny helped, and we just redid all that reclaimed wood, and
Yeah, it's beautiful.
that was all her. Like I was like, oh, we could do a couple of sound panels, you know, and she was like, no, this is gonna be awesome, and it's like a little mini Ryman. It looks so cool.
Yeah, I just wish they would turn the lights up a little more. Like they're cool about it if I ask them, because when I'm shooting, I'll have to, man.
So I used to have like household track lights. I don't know if they're still there, but they were on the front, and I put them on just a fader, so they weren't even attached to the sound system.
Yeah, they
Just
still
you
have
could get white light.
Yeah, like I said, usually they're really cool, and I'm like, just give me a song or two,
Right. So
and
we
they'll
get a
do
couple
it.
shots.
Yeah, and they'll do it, and I mean, but they're always just moody as those shots. It's like it's almost too much. But anyway, still, I love the bar anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you're doing that, and then I don't know. Then all of a sudden, it just seemed like you were like helping every establishment in Deep Ellum like get off their feet.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. So after I parted ways with working at Double Wide, I was still hanging out there. Obviously, that was the deal. I was producing Falgu's EP, Ashley Falgu, and one of my favorite things. I was super stoked to really dive into producing. At this point, I think we'd done 3 albums with Dead Flowers, and I think my producer brain was starting to work, and I was starting to hear like, you know, different snare tunings, and I was really wanting to go dive right into production. And so we did that Falgu EP with Dead Flowers, and it was awesome. A great experience. And I remember one day I was going to Monkey King to get some food, and on the way back I see this guy that I kind of knew, but I knew his wife because Courtney was in Gorehounds. She was one of the performers, and at a band that I teched for, Cramps tribute band. And I saw him, I was like, hey, what's up, bud? You know, he kind of looked pretty down, and he just like handed me this stack of papers with basically like had a bar grade, like his inventory grade, and it basically said, you're not making any money and everybody's stealing from you. And you know, I'd maybe been unemployed for a week at this point, probably the longest, you know, in my life. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I can help out. And so we set up a couple meetings, and they were very formal about everything, which should, it's your investment. And then I got the job, and then I fired everybody, and pretty much overnight, I think I fired 90% of the staff, rehired. There was a food program there, mostly all new talent, started going through programming. And
Wait, I'm sorry, did I miss where are we talking about?
this is at 9.
The 9th. Okay.
Yeah, this is at the 9. So this is what started all that. So it was kind of a consulting. It was supposed to be a 3-month thing, and I think I just celebrated my 5.5 or 6 year anniversary there.
Right.
But through that, you know, that was more of a timing thing, like doing hip hop, like DJ oriented hip hop, not necessarily live hip hop, but in Deep Ellum. And at that point in time, not a lot of people were doing it, whether they were afraid to, or they didn't know how to manage or whatever. That just wasn't happening. And so we did it. We did it really well. We did it safe. Like people, you know, have a great time. And it was always like a female that would be like, thank you so much. Like, I feel safe here, and I can just, you know, and that meant a lot to me. That's what I want, you know, in any aspect of life. And so the Nines did really well. And then, you know, I went over to Independent Bar and Kitchen. Josh Florence, another, you know, guy I've known for years through City Tavern, and, you know, ended up kind of absorbing a chef job and then getting rid of a lot of the front of the house servers. And then next thing you know, I'm running that place for a contract. I think it was 3 months there while I'm still running Nines, and then fell in love with the Parlor's Patty Melt, as everybody knows, because I think more people probably know me as a Patty Melt guy than the, you know, lead singer dude.
Right.
And then, you know, they, you know, like, I mean, it just happens. There are kind of issues that they didn't foresee. And, there were days that I would go to Nines, and then I would go to IBK, and then I get a call from Seth at Parlor, like, hey man, can you come cook for a minute? And it's like, sure, why not? So then I just go to the Parlor, and I'd be, and then if Three Links had someone call out, I'd just, sure, I'll go work a show over here, and it was just, I've always wanted to see my friends and people or programs or things I care about succeed, whether it be a band or a restaurant or a bar. And I have a knack for service. And I kind of burn the candle a little hard there. But
but it's just your blood is like all through these like places in Deep Ellum that are thriving now. I mean, for the most part, I guess some of them are gone. I
think most of them are.
Well, I guess.
But yeah, I mean,
okay, they were thriving for a minute. But I mean, point is that you're like woven in,
right?
It's like that's why you're on this podcast for the first episode. Anyway, so then I guess Dead Flowers is kind of in what would you call it, like a holding pattern
currently? Yeah, I want to call it a current or I currently want to call it a holding pattern. I always said with this band my goal is to make 5 albums at least, which is a very that was pre-Spotify, so I don't even know how many albums like these young kids are making now. They're just releasing singles or whatever, and whatever they're doing is great and it works for them. It's awesome. But 12 years ago to be like, hey, I want to make 5 albums with this record, and I want to tour, and I had goals like I want to play Granada, and like all these things, and seemed like pretty crazy goals. But here we are. We have 4 albums. And I think they've all just kind of matured as they went.
Really did. I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like when I felt like when I first was introduced to you guys, it was like kind of a party band.
Mm-hmm.
And then the songwriting evolved. Like those last 2 albums to me were just, it was cool. The arc was cool. Like, I mean, I want to hear the 5th one.
Right. I mean, I'd still, I still got some songs that I was working on. I mean, that 3rd album, I think I wrote the rest of that through a breakup, I feel like. Yeah. And I was just like, I got to pump this thing out. I got to do something new, and it was great. I was living in the jam room, basically just writing all day. And then that 4th album, Patrick Kelly was the one that actually made that one happen. He's like, I've heard 4 new songs at these shows, and I know that you can write the rest. Let's just go record an album. And I think he saw the band emotionally stirring a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what we didn't realize until later was I think everybody was dealing with some different issues that nobody was really talking about, and so I think he saw that, and so he was like, finish this album, we're gonna go back down to Dripping Springs, we're gonna record it, it's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And I think part of the songwriting stuff that had changed was I'd learned how to play guitar by the 3rd album, not very well, but like
Hold your own.
Yeah, I could do okay. And I understood tone, and I was being a little more hands-on with James Brock on drums. Just like, hey, try this. Like, I know this isn't conventional, but like, you're an amazing drummer. This is what I think, and then do whatever you want. And then we would, it was just kind of me trying to produce a little bit. And then I think falling in love with the Replacements right in between 2nd and 3rd album and doing all the androgynous cover set challenged me as a songwriter. It was like, wait, it doesn't all have to be, I don't have to just scream the whole time. I can be sweet even if I'm sad, And
interesting. That's what I didn't realize that's where the Replacements fell in there. Yeah.
I think it was like the 2nd album, right after we released that. The 1st album was very Americana, modern electric, and Jeff produced that. And it was kind of like, not necessarily that he did what he wanted to do, but like he did what he thought was best with my voice, and that's what you trust a producer for.
Sure.
And the 2nd album, we were with Jason Burt, and it was a little more hip, in my opinion, lot more effects and pans, and we're like, oh, okay, that's cool too. It's like kind of Delta Spirity, which was one of my favorite bands. And the 3rd album we made with Nash, and he was 17.
Yeah.
And it's just like a raw garage rock and roll record. And then I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. Like, I want to play our own guitars, our own amps, like our own pedals. Like, I want it to sound like we sound on stage. And so if you come to a show and you like what you hear or experience, at least that album's going to be pretty close to that. Because there's nothing worse than like dude, I just heard this band, check them out. And you throw it on, you're like, what is this? Like,
Right.
how drunk was I? Like,
Yeah. That's always the challenge. Like, I want it to sound, I want to produce it versus I want it to sound like it's going to sound,
yeah. There's definitely a balance there. I mean, that was with Falgout, that was my first production. And I was like, I don't want to impede on you, but I really, want you to sound like Adele backed by Lucero. That was the goal. And she nailed it. And I challenged her. And what was cool about her versus as a singer versus me as a singer was I could play her like an instrument because she was a good singer.
Right. Yeah.
If a producer was like, can you do like a blah, blah, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. Like, sing it, and then I'll try to replicate it. But with her, I would like, no, do something up there. And she'd be like, all right. And just nail it every time.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So then how does Charlie's Star Lounge come into the picture?
Yeah. So I think maybe 2 or 3 years into Nines, like being successful and, doing well. I mean, Nines did really well, still doing well. But like in the height of all that pre-COVID and that whole nightmare, Alan wanted to have a place that, I mean, he always noticed, like I would check in, make sure everybody's good. And at midnight I was at Double Wide, like walking distance, in case they needed anything. But I was, I wasn't hanging out there. Like middle school me would have loved hanging out there, but I needed something a little lower key. I wanted to see some live bands.
It's a scene over there. I mean, it was cool. I've been there like once or twice. Like I'm a little too old for that.
Yeah,
I'm old.
It's wild, man. I every now and then I'll go in there and I'll pop in the sound room and just watch everybody, just like the whole room's just moving. It's so cool to know that I had a part in that. But he'd always been, and he's an entrepreneur. Like I don't know how many businesses he's owned or sold and whatnot, and he's just really good at that stuff. Alan Faulkner, and he had been saying he wanted to do another bar, and we looked at a couple spots. One was right across the street from Nines, and I was like, I live upstairs where we shot the Happy video. So in that parking lot, there was like an abandoned gas station. They were looking at building something there, and I was like, dude, I literally couldn't be closer to work. Like I don't think that's the right move, And so we like shopped around with our with Madison Partners, who we leased from, and they found the old Starlight Lounge. And the way they presented it was like, look, this thing's a landmark. A lot of people have driven by it. You can describe it and they know where it is. Not a lot of people have been in there in the last 20 years. But if we don't get a tenant in there, it's going to end up being like a Subway Starbucks combo at some point, as everything was moving east. And we had looked at a couple other spaces and we didn't really love it. And then went there and, we called it the Chocolate Starfish. That was our nickname for it. Because it was rough. I mean, in the 80s, that place was like car shows and like, and then that owner passed away and passed it on to one of his bartenders. And, not everybody's, cut out for this world, the business end of it. It's easy to serve drinks. I mean, that's the fun part.
Right,
I miss doing that, but keeping all the bills straight and paying your taxes. So anyway, we got in there, and I remember he sent me in there to meet with the city to see if the place was, could pass code with a little this, a little that. And the fire marshal and the health department were just looking at me like I was wasting their time. Like, hey, what are y'all thinking, So anyways, we signed on it right before Thanksgiving, I believe, because somebody backed into the front of the building like the day after, I believe. And, or maybe that's when we agreed on it or whatever. Someone backed into it. We had to go get it fixed. We were already putting money into it and didn't even have it yet, And, basically, as soon as it was time we had talked about getting the previous tenant out, taking care of her, making sure she's set with her family and everything. And COVID hit and, shut everything down. And so, Alan was, he's the principal investor. So he bought this for me. He bought me into this for what I did for him at Nines. A lot of people don't realize that. I don't have any money. And,
the equity you earned though.
Absolutely. I definitely put in the work, blacked out and on the way to 7-Eleven trying to get cases of water in the middle of summer, put it in, shocked myself at the Nines quite a bit too. But anyway, so after he just kind of sat with everything and, worried and did the whole, what we all did, like, what does this mean? And, he had both bars now and earned his investments. And eventually I was like, hey man, let's just, he likes to build stuff. He's really handy. I love to build stuff and learn more. And I was like, let's just get in there and do, we had to pay to do certain things, for the city, but then it was like, we'll just take our time and we'll do this. We're still allowed in there, It was nice to mask up in there because that place was just so old and dirty. And and so, yeah, we would just go in there, and every day we'd meet in there and plug away. And I looked at him one day. I was like, man, this bar top ain't going to work, like looking at it. And he was like, you want to build one? I was like, yeah. I was like, you ever built one? He's like, no. I was like, cool. Me either. And we learned a lot on that bar top, And anytime someone bangs their hand on it or a watch or a ring, I just gleam at him, just like, dude, don't touch my bar top.
Right. It's a lot different when you put all that sweat into it.
Dude, yeah, it was, a lot of, we both got tetanus shots from that place, and, we had a lot of fun. But yeah, then it was kind of, we didn't push it to open, but right around the time everything was ready to reopen, Charlie's was also ready. And so we opened, not knowing what it was going to be. I didn't want to control it too much. That's what when I was, doing more consulting, I'd always tell people like, hey, if you're trying to control everything, like you got to let people show you what they want out of this place. And so I didn't even have a full back bar. It was like, like an airport bar, basically, a couple nice things, whatever. And then as people got there, they were like, oh, I wish you had this. It's like, cool, come back next week. Here it is. And, we built a culture there, and we had to add on that patio. Cause that, first 6 months, some people are masking, some people aren't, but everybody's smoking on top of each other. And when you can see the air, it's a lot different, in COVID perspective, you're like, oh no, this doesn't look good. We're a year and a half in now, I think.
That's it.
Yeah, it feels like
you've been there forever. It's a great spot.
Thank you.
It's really, it's fun. Actually, you reminded me, I had a date there, and that's the last night I drank alcohol.
Oh yeah,
I think I did 3 shots of tequila, which for me isn't.
Yeah,
that's not a lot.
No, I mean, yeah, I guess usually I see you're working, so you don't drink when you work.
No,
so,
I don't need to.
I was trying to leave you alone on your date, but I was trying to make sure that she knew that I knew that you were cool.
It was a weird date, but
there's a lot of those there.
Yeah.
Weird place.
But I also spent one birthday. I invited people. Not a lot of people came, but it was.
We have a hat. Spot. We have one of your. I don't know if somebody left a hat.
Oh, it was probably James. I gave it to him for his birthday.
I can see that. It's on the back bar. It's still there.
Oh, cool.
It's really dusty. It looks like it's 50 years old.
If it's like part of the show, I like it.
Oh, it's in. Yeah, it ain't going anywhere.
Like one of the things I like about Dallas, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles. I've spent a lot of time in New York City, and Dallas feels like more intimate. It feels smaller, even though it's still huge.
Right.
That's one of the things I like about it. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Charlie's works. I mean, like Deep Ellum is this like it's right on the edge of Deep Ellum, and it's like a neighborhood where everyone knows to go. Although it's been a little bit questionable of late.
Right.
I mean, for me. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more about like, where am I going to park almost, sometimes.
Oh, do I have to pay $20 to park?
Yeah, when I moved here, 7 years ago, like I knew where the free parking was. There isn't.
Yeah, no, none of that. They took those away.
Gone, Although I'm surprised they haven't started doing the meters during the day down there, but,
It's just a matter. Do you just right now?
I know. It's
going to listen to
everyone's going to be like,
don't do it.
Thanks, dude. But I mean, maybe that's why the community works so well at your place there. But I mean, for you, like, what's like? I don't know how you've toured. It's like, what's your feeling house versus?
No, you're absolutely right. So we have the shared Chicago thing, and I lived in Long Beach in the desert, which is not quite LA, but spent some time there for sure. When you're in like a big city where there's lots of people, and I do feel like in Chicago is a very welcoming city, and there's, especially in the middle of winter when you're on a CTA or a Metra and you're just looking around and everybody's just like, yeah, we're all freezing together. Like, this just sucks. Or like, I got a pregame to go to the bar because I'm going to sober up in negative 20-degree wind just to get to the bar, to get drunk enough to be able to make the walk home and be sober. There's that whole like, I don't know, I digress with that. But I think in Dallas, like, even though we're so spread out, it is a very intimate city. And I feel like, even in like dining experiences, or like, so like, for example, at Charlie's, like the seats on the patio and some of them inside, they're old bus chairs that I took and
oh really
had them reupholstered. Yeah, I got them for free. It was like I sought after them. I was like, I think bus chairs would be cool, make you feel kind of like a kid, this, sort of thing, like you're low to the ground, and but also like it'll force you to sit close to somebody, which obviously I thought about that before COVID.
Right.
But it kind of forces people, whether they're on dates or they're just meeting or whatever, to sit sometimes too close and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, the only other town that I kind of experienced what we have in Dallas, or what we had in Dallas like 10 years ago when it was a smaller scene, was Rochester. And it was one of our favorite places to tour. When we had a booking agent for a minute, maybe the first, or I don't remember which tour, someone helping us out, he was trying to route us into New York City on a Saturday. And I was like, nah, man, we'll do like New York on a Thursday, like Rochester's where we're going on a Saturday. And he was like, what? Like, why would you? And I was like, dude, come to Rochester. Like, we played at Monty's Crown. We had a couple good friends we met there, and that I still keep in touch with today. And it was such a cool little community, and everybody was really in your face and like super about it, and like sent me like mixtapes, and like was recommending me like local bands and tattoo shops. And my favorite part about it was this Chinese restaurant, but that's aside from the point. Yeah, I mean, Dallas has that weird charm, and I think it's why, as we were talking about earlier, it's so hard to get away from, because it's just so easy here. And it is, you have your like, oh, that's so Dallas, like kind of pretentious dining, pretentious clubs, whatever, your money, your Dallas money, right? It's here. But like, even aside from that, there's just like, and even some of those individuals, I mean, everybody's just very friendly at the end of the day. And everybody has a bad day or whatnot, but I do feel like we're just in this, there's almost this, because the weather is always changing and everything in Dallas is always changing. So maybe that's why everyone's just kind of like, we got this, like whatever, as long as we have a place to celebrate or, hang out, like it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think especially Deep Ellum 10 years ago when there was like 8 bands and we all went to each other's shows, it was like, all right, Room Sounds are playing tonight, Dead Flowers are tomorrow, and then we're going to the Room Sounds for an after party, and Somebody's Darling's doing this, and it was just, everybody knew the schedule,
Yeah, well, even when I moved here and I was going to your guys' shows, it seemed like there was just like everyone would go to certain shows.
Mm-hmm.
Now, oh my gosh, there are so many bands here. It's out of control.
It's wild.
It's out of control. I mean, and then for me, I guess I've been here for a minute, but there's always some band that I've never heard of that everyone's like, you ever heard of this band? Like, you didn't know, and it's just like it's crazy. But
that is wild, because I mean, you're shooting and you're in the scene more than I am. I mean, like
I go out more than I did in my 20s. It's kind of ridiculous. If I drank,
to Dallas.
Yeah, if I drank, I don't know how I would even be doing.
Yeah, it'd be tricky.
Well, let me ask. I mean, we love Dallas, but like, what's some stuff that maybe you wish Dallas would do differently?
I mean, people say the word progressive, and it's not really a political thing, but Dallas just has a lot of really weird laws in general. So like for like, Deep Ellum, anywhere else in the world where a Deep Ellum, or a really populated urban area exists or whatnot, you have food trucks and you have pop-ups and stuff like that. And like, we don't, like, food trucks aren't allowed to park in Deep Ellum, even if they pay, like on the street, they can park in a private lot or whatever. There's like really weird, like, bar restaurant politics in Dallas, like the fact that you can't make your own charcuterie in Texas. I guess that's Texas, not Dallas, but there's like, you go to New York or LA and it's wheels off, like, yeah, let's let people make money. Let's let the, independent business owners like take a run at it, like get money, be successful. Like Dallas, Dallas makes it hard. Texas makes it hard too, but Dallas, I see a lot of business owners laments through this COVID stuff, with the triple P loans and just the fire marshal, everything getting back to normal, and the marshal just like busting people, like 3 Links and like Double Wide was having an issue, 3 Links was having issues, Dada was having issues, and
Arco stopped doing outdoor shows because people complained about that. Yeah,
you moved to Deep Ellum and you're complaining about hearing music. We used to get it. I think we probably still get it on the rooftop at Nines. It's like, we don't crank it on weekdays. It's Friday and Saturday, man. You moved to Deep Ellum, like.
Seriously. Well, I heard a lot of the businesses that moved in are the ones that are complaining.
Oh yeah. I mean, and those are the guys, you know, the corporations, the ones that have, you know, 20 units in the state or whatever, you know, they're wheeling and dealing to get those guys in here because they know that they can make the rent, you know, and then in return they're like, well, it's too loud, you know, people can't, you know, hear my sales pitch on my Gap sweater or whatever's down in Deep Ellum now, you know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, you know, a lot of places, even if they push them, which is, you know, not great, but if you're pushing businesses to thrive somewhere, at least you're giving them a shot, even if it's a shady neighborhood or whatever. But like, I mean, you know, in Dallas, it's just like, nah, we're just going to make it really difficult for you, all the, you know, different taxes. And we went through an insurance thing with Charlie's where they had us insured as a strip club. I don't know if did I ever tell you this?
No.
This is my first, you know, like Dead Flowers was a business, but it, you know, it wasn't as profitable, obviously, or ideally it wouldn't be as profitable as owning a bar. And we had just like got paid up from our, you know, our initial investment. And I was like, cool. Like now let's see what this is. Let's enjoy this. I want a 2-man boat, you know, with just a tiny little motor on it so I can go fishing. Like this sounds great. Like I don't need a truck or anything, just, you know, whatever. And then we get hit with this insurance scam, basically, that they were calling us a strip club. And it was like, you know, to be a strip club, you have to have a different type of liquor license. So like everything wasn't even correct in the claims, and basically charged us like $30,000-$40,000, whatever it ended up being, because we had one drag show there called Stripper Church. And again, not a strip club, just a dive bar. I mean, pretty sure they do drag shows in Chili's now. I mean, they're just, drag shows are normal, and which is awesome. And didn't think twice about having May do her thing. Like had her at Nines as well. And when we reopened, we kind of moved a lot of that programming over there. And sure enough, yeah, they shut it down. I'm not allowed to do drag shows now. You know, it's in our insurance. And the guy was like, oh, have you ever thought about just having an acoustic guitar player up here, like doing covers? And I'm like, yeah, dude, but those places don't exist because they don't do well. Like,
yeah.
You know, like technically at Charlie's, you're not allowed to dance. Like, obviously we're, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say that out loud, but you know, it's wild. So like, I mean, we had to go to an insurance company from Illinois that does nothing about Dallas, and they were the best thing we could do. And then all this stuff came out about how any place that does drag shows is going to be or considered like a sex shop or whatever they called it, a sex venue. And it's like, why even, there's no reason to do that, you know, like then again, it's just for the state to either control what's happening or make more money. They're probably profiting off that somehow, but we got the insurance thing kind of squared around. But yeah, we lost money on it, and you know, it was very defeating after, you know, a year before we opened, like putting all the work into it. And then, you know, I worked so much to make that place successful and safe and, you know, a fun place for people, to just get hammered down, you know, by this insurance company. So, you know, not necessarily just Dallas, but I mean, that's kind of the downside. I do think that locally, the independent business owners don't really get a good shot at being successful and making money, which is, you know, to me, like this place, if something happens to me, like Kat will have money. Well, this isn't live, right? This will be aired later.
Yeah.
So I'm proposing to her on Saturday. So now I can be like, now my fiance, if she says yes.
Oh, she's going to say yes. I was going to ask you about that, not on the air, but.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go over it later. She doesn't know yet, but Saturday anyway.
Yeah, no, this won't come out till January.
Cool. And if she says no, then we'll just, we'll edit it. It's fine.
I can't in a million years imagine she would say no.
She's stuck with me. She put in too much work. But, you know, if something happened to me, like my family, my fiance now, would be taken care of, you know, and that's, you know me personally, that's just kind of always been my thing, like to make sure everybody around me is set up and happy and healthy. And so I feel like there's probably other business owners that are struggling with that as well. They're just like, I mean, I don't know what to do. Like it's so difficult to be successful. And, you know, and with Charlie's, it's a small bar, and it looks probably to most people looks more successful than it is, but it's such an expensive business to be in, the, you know, bar industry. And it's really, you know, it's really not, you know, percentage wise, it's great, but nominally, it's not that much. You know?
Right. I mean, you can only put so many people. They can only have so many drinks.
Yeah,
You know, it's
legally.
yeah, it's not that big.
Don't want an insurance issue.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, like there's a cap, and I mean, like I'm sure, yeah, the margins aren't that big.
Yeah, but I do wish the city or the state it would just make it easier on not even just bar, but like, you know, like local stores.
Oh yeah,
Food deserts.
yeah. I mean, it's always upsetting when I read the Facebook stuff where when people are talking about all that stuff. It's not cool. Well, so what's next for Corey Howe?
Hey, this is a hot question right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been working about no joke. Unfortunately, I've been working about 120 hours a week since everything reopened. Me and Kat just went on our first vacation in 4 years, I think, and the vacation was great, but we didn't rest because I had to basically make it all up to her. 4 years worth of vacations, you know, whatever you want to do, babe, let's go do it. You know, we didn't sleep. We did everything, and it was great. But I've decided that I'm going to step down from nines, and originally I was going to step down altogether. Everything I've done there is locked in. I got guys that I can bring up, and that's what I'm working on now. Make sure they can manage, and everybody knows if they ever need anything, they can call me, ask me whatever advice or anything. But it looks like I'm probably staying on as some sort of, you know, minor consultant for the company, since we're partners in Charlie's as well. So, which is great for me. But I'm hoping to get rest, which I've never really been good at, but maybe I will now. But I'm going to try to take a kind of dive right into some more food stuff. I'm going to start doing food pop-ups. So I'm going to bring there's a burger from Oklahoma called the Oklahoma Onion Burger, and it's a smash burger, which everybody knows smash burgers, but not a lot of people do them right, in my opinion. And so I'm just going to start slinging Oklahoma onion burgers, and as well as some other stuff, and do some pop-ups. And, you know, since Charlie's is named after our cat, I think tentatively, and we'll probably know by the time this comes out, I think the burger or the pop-up is going to be Betty's Burgers, named after my dog. So Betty's Burgers and more.
They're going to have veggie stuff? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Man, you are a damn good cook. I definitely want to eat.
Yeah, I mean, when I took over IBK, that was the first thing, and me as like I mean, I'm a meat eater, but I mean, today I had a bag of salad.
Right.
But the first thing I did when I walked in there was like, man, you guys don't have any vegetables. Like, French fries don't count, you know? And I remember some of those old regulars at IBK, they were like, dude, these carrots are so good. I'm like, yeah, dude, just roast some carrots with some salt and pepper, a little bit of lemon, you're good to go, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're gonna do some veggie options. You know, I have the pizza oven. I mean, we're gonna mix it up quite a bit. I kind of want to mess around with some potato latkes, you know.
Ooh. Bring
it back to the growing up me, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready for something different. I'm ready to be able to spend time with Kat and spend time at home. We bought a house in the middle of all this bar stuff that,
yeah,
you know, I'm barely ever really there.
Yeah, I mean, you work so hard. I mean, I'm finally getting to the point too. Like, I'm dating somebody. I'm just like, you know, you have a couple empty days on the calendar. Don't make plans. Go hang out with your family. You know?
Oh, I screwed up, man. You know, it's Kat's birthday today. It's December 6th. And
you're a good man for her.
I was actually buying her ring, and my general contractor called me to tell me how much it was going to cost to replace the gutters on my house. And I was like, man, this is really not a good time. Like, I'm trying to I'm choking down this cash, you know. And anyway, so I was like, yeah, next available. He's like, cool, Tuesday. And I was like, oh yeah, Tuesday sounds great. And then I was like, oh no. And I was like, so on 8 a.m. on her birthday, you know, where people on the roof just banging around. She's a good sport. She knows I didn't do that on purpose. And
right.
Yeah, so she needed a nap anyway, so we were good to do this.
Yeah, that's cool. It's great. I mean, hey, thanks again for being my first guest.
This has been awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to hang out with you anytime, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'd like to thank my guest, Corey Howe. You can go see him yourself at Charlie's Star Lounge or check him out on the internet. Dead Flowers is pretty much everywhere. Theme song, Salim Narala's Unstoppable. Thank you very much, my man. You can check us out on Deep Ellum Radio, and then after that, all the podcast platforms. I'm Andrew Sherman, and we'll see you next time.